Hey everyone, it's Dr. Tracy with drtracy.tv and happy Friday to you. We are actually, oh my gosh, the weather is so gorgeous here in California today. It is Easter weekend and we're getting ready to gear up for family to come in and do some celebrating. So as a few people are beginning to log on, happy Friday to you as well. Listen, welcome to the next episode of 16 and Me, the show where we learn to both silence yet celebrate, edit yet empower that harsh inner critic voice that lives inside of us. That if we're not careful, if we don't know it's there, it can literally edit the entire outcome of our life. And so every week I come on this show and I help empower people to learn to recognize, I'm trying to get comfortable here, learn to recognize their harsh inner critic, where it came from, and most important, how to get rid of it. Very quickly, hello Leela, hello Indie Message, hello Chai Marie Nichols, oh Shamarie, hi Veena over in India, how are things over there? Happy Holi to you. I know that your big festival is taking place. Hello Eskadar, hello Mrs. Canada Globe 2020 and Java Rockstar. Okay, we're gonna get started. All right, so every week what I like to do is, the very first thing that I like to do is explain exactly who is 16. So if you're not familiar with 16, if this is the first time you're joining us, 16, I believe that within every single woman, there's at least 17 personas. How many of you would agree with that? And for the most part, we all get along. Let me make sure my microphone is here. We all get along fabulously. We all know each other fabulously, except for when it comes to 16. So who is 16? 16 is that inner persona within us that has an ego out to here, that has fears and issues out to here, and insecurities out to here. And what happens is that due to various traumas, because all of this critical voice inside of us always stems from a trauma, it will latch onto our thought process and literally begin to attack us from the inside out. So in the world of psychology, the professionals call it the pathological critic. It's a thought process. In the world of Buddhism, they call it Maya. In Tracyland, we call it 16. And the reason that she got her name 16 was because one day in my prayer and meditation time, I got this download visual, and it was it looked like the Last Supper table, and there were 17 seats around the table, and 16 of them were being taken up by 16. And so I realized that if we're not careful and we don't become aware that this inner critic voice is campaigning and beating us up from the inside out, well, it can completely impact the outcome of our life. It can impact our economics, because we'll be told, you can't make money, or money is the root of all evil. Or it will impact our love, because it will tell you, you think you deserve to be loved? It will impact our ability to dream, because it will go inside of us and say, wait, just a second. You think that you can achieve that dream? What in the world would make you think that you can achieve that dream? So what happens is that this 16, and how many of you are relating to this 16 thought process that lives inside of us, called the pathological critic. As I said, it always stems from a wound. And one of the ways that I like to help people identify their 16, and let me quickly say hello to you down in South Africa. It's nice to see you. Hello, Mrs. North America. It's nice to see you. So the way that I like to describe 16 is that 16 basically goes into our emotional trauma closet, looks around, attaches itself to a prior trauma wound that we're carrying inside of us, and shows up in her emotional wardrobe. That can be like the judger. She can show up as the shamer, show up as the blamer, show up as the not enougher. How many of this is resonating with some of you? Show up as the doubter, show up as the emotional hoarder, which somebody asked me the other day, what's an emotional hoarder? And an emotional hoarder is that thought process inside of you that will just not let go of anything. Is torturing you from things that happened like double-digit years ago. It will show up as the extreme egoist. Like, how dare anybody think that I'm less than perfect? And some people would have a hard time recognizing that that's actually their wounded 16 talking. Really quickly. Hello, Silver Lining down in India. Hello. Hi, Lisa Ground up in Canada. My fellow tribal sister from a different tribe. Cree Nation, right? Go Cree Nation. Nice to see you. So today what I want to do is, so those are the kind of the rules of 16, all right? And so what do we know? That 16 definitely comes from a trauma background. It's a strong internal thought process. So some people get a little scared of the concept of 16 because they're like, does that mean I'm schizophrenic? No, you're completely aware that you are who you are, and you are being beat up in real time. And so you're very cognizant and aware. And it's not a personality that overtakes you, though it may feel that way because thoughts are everything, and thoughts have the power to literally navigate our life. But what happens is that it latches onto a trauma. It takes on the voice of whatever that trauma represents. And then it begins to shame and blame and just basically destroy us from the inside out. And it's called the pathological critic. So what I like to do here is to help bring light and insight to this thing called the pathological critic by giving it a name, by learning how to recognize its internal campaigns, and then by using the number one thing that it takes to silence the pathological critic, which is what? Truth. Simply just speaking the truth back to that internal voice. Hello, Janet Zoo. It's nice to see you. Hello, Java Rockstar. And Mr. Timchenko. Hello, Mr. Timchenko. It's nice to see you. Okay, so today what I want to talk about on 16 and Me is I want to introduce you to the judger. So how many of you have an internal voice that it seems like when life is starting to go well, suddenly this internal voice will kick in and it will begin to judge you and call you internal names, and most important, give you that damn scorecard. Because that's one thing that the pathological critic, that inner 16, is really good about, just handing you that scorecard. And so one of the ways that the pathological, that 16 shows up is by beginning to judge every move that you make, causing you extreme doubt, causing you extreme shame, and literally just hitting you in the emotional Achilles tendon to the point that you become debilitated because it convinces you from the inside out, from the soul, from the mind out, that you don't deserve to pursue what you want to pursue, that even if you did experience success, something must have been wrong with the people that promoted you. Wow, how many of you could relate to that one? So here's the one thing I want you to know, though. Here's the takeaway when it comes to the 16, and then I'm going to invite my guest on for the week who's going to introduce us to her 16. Here's what I want you to know about the judger, if the judger lives inside of you. Very quickly, hello, Coretta Doll. It's nice to see you. Hello, Anna. Hello, Penton, Josephine, and hello, the National Director. Nice to see you. All right, so here's what I want you to know about 16 and the judger. And this is something that I like to explain every single week in this show. When we are a child, as a child, we have absolutely no control over the environment that we lived in. We were powerless to be able to control the trauma that took place with us, the trauma wound that led to the trauma voices that live inside of us. We were completely traumatized. And whatever happened to us, if it gave us a negative life-defining moment, well, what happens at that time is that because we are children, we think that that's truth, that that's the rules, that that's how life works, that if somebody of value told me that I was invaluable, then therefore I must be invaluable. Because remember, to a child, a parent is like a god, right? They know everything. They have the power for everything. Or even caregivers or teachers or anybody who has a strong influence in our life as a child. You know, my sister, my older sister, her 16 that just beat her up from the inside out didn't happen because of what she experienced in the household necessarily. One of her big 16 wounds, because we can get wounded from 16. The reason that 16 can have so many voices is because we can experience many trauma wounds. Hers came from a teacher when she was in first grade, who, if she didn't make her A's perfectly, she would hit her knuckles with a ruler. Can you imagine? And so, you wonder why by the time she grows up, she's a perfectionist. You know, she got told that if you don't get your A's straight, and that's like the first letter of the alphabet, and if you can't get, the first letter, what is wrong with you? And she carried that throughout her whole life. But here's the beautiful thing, is that, hola, Olguita, is that as a child we were powerless to be able to control those voices. But as an adult, we are the boss of our thoughts. That our thoughts don't control us, we control our thoughts. And so the only way that we can begin to heal from these penetrating thoughts from within is to learn to speak back the truth as an adult, as a healed adult, is what I wanted to say. And you're like, but what if I'm not healed? Well, that's what you're here for, is to learn these things. You're entering into any other program that you go into. All right, so how do you learn to speak back to the judger? Well, the way that you learn to speak back is you understand that the truth of the matter is that the judger is an internal voice that is casting value on you. Did you catch that? It's casting value on you. And no one in this universe has the right to place value on another human being. That each and every one of us are born equal. And it is absolutely a lie that another person has the power to place that value on you. Now remember, if it happened to you when you were young, you don't know that rule. You don't know that at any time of the journey, you can release that message from inside of you and give it back to the original owner. That, you could scribble it down on a piece of paper and mail it to them. And say, they say, what is this? Say, oh, these are some words that you dropped in my soul that I realize at my age, as my adult age, they don't belong to me anymore. So I need to give them back to their original owner. And we have the power at any time to return the words to the original owner and learn to give ourselves our own sense of value, which just for being born, that value is you're enough. And it might sound like a really simple solution, but it is. Now, it might take some time to learn where that value comes from, because you got to build up the infrastructure that was knocked around because of that wrong message. But that's the truth of the matter. is that nobody, no other human being has the right to assign your value. But what if I make mistakes? Welcome to being human. We all make mistakes. That's silly talk. It's about learning how to just do it better the next time around, right? All right, so what I want to do right now is I want to bring my guest in. And my guest is calling in from, dialing in from, logging in from, I don't know what the right word is in the internet world, social media world, Canada. She's a reigning Mrs. Canada, actually. And today she is going to be introducing us to her judger. I'm trying to get her on here. Oh, where are you? She's not here yet. Dang, dang, dang. Mrs. Cat, there you are. Let's send her a request. And as soon as she comes on, we will take her interview. Well, there she is. That was quick. How are you, darling?
Sanjay, hi, Dr. Tracy.
Hello, beautiful soul. How are you? I'm gonna
Good.
adjust
I
my
brought
camera.
some flowers today. You know
You
they're your favorite.
you have sunflowers?
I brought them for you today. I know they're your favorite.
They are my favorite. You know what? You know why the sunflower is my favorite? The sunflower is my favorite because, well, first off, I love yellow, number one. And secondly, there's two things that the sunflower does that I absolutely adore. The first one is that the sunflower actually tracks the sun. And even on foggy days, its big head will just be looking for the sun. And I think that that's so important, especially for anybody who's ever suffered from depression, just a discipline of like, find that sun, find that silver lining. And secondly, what I love is that people, I don't know about any of you if you have a hard time trusting other people because of your trauma wounds, but what sunflowers do is when it gets cold, they actually face the sunflower next to them, and they kind of like hold on to each other's energy to get through that cold time in life. And so that's why I love the symbology of sunflowers. Thank you, though. I absolutely love them. Will you take a picture for me and send them down?
Yeah, I'll put them in the mail tonight for you.
Oh, no, you don't have to put them in the mail. Just take a picture and send them down. They might die at international post with COVID. So, all right. So today I want to welcome you to 16andMe, and thank you so much for jumping in the live petri dish of empowerment. Because one of the reasons that I love to have guests on this show is that so many people, when they have that 16 living inside of them, they think they're alone. We feel half crazy with these penetrating thoughts that just beat us up from the inside out. And so it's really empowering when especially powerful people such as yourself, accomplished people such as yourself, get on here and say, gosh, no, it even happens to me. So, all right, before every show, I send out a little questionnaire, just identifying some of the names of that 16 can show up, the emotional wardrobes that 16 can show up. And tell us about who is your 16 and how does she show up?
Well, it was hard finding a label for her. She's a bit complex. So at first I started with the bar raiser, but I settled on the judger. I decided that that's her, the judger.
She's the judger. Okay, so take us into what happens what does she sound like? What are some of her catchphrases? What faces does she make? Go ahead and introduce us to her.
Okay, so she is all kinds of kind of wonderful because when she shows up, she's entertaining. So she'll show up and she'll be like, she's sassy and she's like smart and on it. And you're just like, ooh, like I want to know you. But then she gets cutting and you're like, ooh, like you need to go away. But she's one of those intriguing people that are like, I'm here, pay attention. And she has a look. She's like, not like, let me see what's gonna happen.
So she creates doubt in you when like, oh, let me see what's gonna happen here.
And that's why she's also a bit of a bar raiser because she's like, oh, is that all you have, Lorelai, today?
Oh, she's a whipper. So what I mean by that is like she takes her whip and she's like, oh, that's all you got for today, girl? Is that true?
Great description.
Yeah. She takes out that little leather whip and just like snaps you enough just to hurt you, not enough to take you down because,
you have goals on authentic goals that you want to achieve, but she just has to leave her little marks on you. Okay, so tell me that when does she? Do you find that there are certain times that she pops into your thought process more often?
Yeah. You know, Tracy, when you were talking about your sister, it really resonated because I think I figured out when she was created. When I speak French, she shows up. And I was like, why is that? And it's like, I think French has something about like, get the accent right. And there's like, especially Parisian French is very, there's a lot to it. So I was exploring, as I was getting ready for this, where does that come from? And like, when I speak Spanish, she's nowhere to be seen. Or German, I start speaking French and I feel her being like, did you get that right, Lorelai? And she turns very poised and just like, and I'm like, why do you show up when I'm trying to speak French? I was thinking about this. This is fantastic. I went to an all-girls boarding school in South Africa, and I lived with the Belgian consulate general when I was 17, had never left my small town, and like was whisked away to the other side of the world into a world I had no idea. I grew up on a farm. I was like a farm kid who fed goats in the morning. And all of a sudden I was put into this world, and I can actually remember and so I had to learn French very quickly. Flemish is the language that the family spoke that I was living with, but with French we could still communicate. So they said, well, rather learn French. And my French living in Western Canada was not great. And so I was like, I got to learn French. Well, the nuns at the school got on my case about, you need to learn French. And then I was living with the Belgian consulate general, and I can remember now that distinct feeling of like, yeah. So I think French is a trigger for me.
Well, that's really powerful that you can go back to the root as to where it happened, and 99% if not 100% of us learning to silence that internal critical voice that can destroy us is learning to go to that root and to find out like where's your seed, where did you get planted? Because as children we are born pure, we are born thoughtless, we are an empty canvas that the influences in our life have the opportunity to paint us into the initial impression of us, is how I like to say it. But what happens is that if somebody comes up, and here's the thing about it, that the vision that I'm getting right now is I'm seeing this beautiful painting that parents, try to put on their children, and then somebody beyond their control sends that beautiful, still being created painting out into the world, and some reckless person who is just reckless with their words or their actions takes a big blob of black paint and just splants it on there, and it might cause a mark this big on the painting. It might take over the whole painting, and it could just be that one incident. It doesn't even have to be chronic, where it sounds, I'm sure you came across it more than once. But the whole thing is learning to recognize, where did that black splash come from that has darkened me from the picture of who I really am.
Right. And I can't say I knew where it came from, Dr. Tracy, until you sent me the questions and I started thinking. And then I was like, where does this come from? So I have to say this has been a wonderful exercise of like finding, like you said, that dark splash. Where did it start? Never thought about it.
Okay, so let's go now that you have the roots, and now that you are who you are at the age that you are, with the wisdom that you have, the family that you have, the experience that you have. So if you were to go back to that 17-year-old girl who was being whisked in different parts of the world and told, you have to learn French, and all the pressures and everything, and you were to intercept her at that very one moment, and if truth is what silences 16, what truth can you give her now that would change, that would be able to remove that blotch and repaint a different picture from the inside?
Yeah. I think I would stop the scene where it's like everyone was prim and proper and sitting at the table and all formal. I would say it's okay to be messy. And I probably would have flung my food and like just something outrageous just to break that, because it has, taken that like, I do have that fun side where I'm like, I'm just gonna be over here dancing. But then yeah, that layer of like, do we have to be so serious? And why do we have to do it perfectly? And like you said at the beginning, we're human. And my elders often say we're human becoming. And so that, yeah, why I want to go back to that moment and be like, it's okay. Make a mess, dive in, and don't be perfect. Just try.
You know what's coming to my mind right now? Because I really believe in healing exercises. I would go and called it. I would take your family and go
Mhm.
to the grocery store and get like either marshmallows, marshmallows or little tiny cupcakes, and go outside and get in a food fight.
Oh, yeah.
Envision sitting at the table, have it all perfect, and then the count of three, say 16. This is for you. And get in a joyous, fun, safe, redefining food fight and break that belief system that lives so deep inside of us that you have to be perfect. Because when we redo the past, I call them do-overs. When we go and all of a sudden
Mm.
say, like, that's what was done, but here's how I really wanted to respond. And your subconscious doesn't necessarily keep track of time. So if you are in that mindset and you go, you know what, I'm going to go and rewrite my history and remove that belief that you have to be perfect, right? And when we do little exercises like, we are going to have a freedom food fight. we're gonna
In French,
we're gonna
in French.
and how would you say that in French? I don't speak French.
Je
Exactly.
pas.
You're going to have a freedom food fight. And as you throw every piece of food, you can say, this is for saying this to me. This is for saying that to me. And you can just continue to throw and splatter. And you know what you're going to find at the end of the day? Life goes on. There's going to be no punishment. There's going to be no harm to anyone, but instead there's going to be laughter and freedom and redefining. And the best thing about it is that black spot that took up so much space in your thought process will be gone. And in its place will be a vacuum hole where you can begin to create and manifest and dream and be flawed without judgment, which
The
makes our
whipper.
total existence so much more enjoyable. And many times people say, what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to live in joy, is to simply reach a point where we say, I love this. I love this existence. I love this family. I love this home. I love this food fight. And I love the freedom that comes from it. So really quickly, how many of you who are watching right now think that you might just need a food fight over a past perfectionist voice in your life? And if you do this, Lorelei, um, I want you to definitely film it so we can celebrate your.
My commitment is this Easter dinner is going to look a lot different. So everybody's that's it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna surprise everyone. And in the background is gonna be perfect French music, and we'll be all sitting nicely, and then I'm just gonna go for it.
Here's to you, Judger. All right, so as we're coming to the end of our show, now that you have this insight, if we have any of our guests out there who are watching that suffer from that Judger as well, what would you say to them now that you're more empowered?
Are you asking me, Dr. Tracy, or are we asking? I was like,
Right.
oh, we're
Yeah.
taking a group poll. Yeah, I would definitely say just live, breathe, laugh, and allow that to flow, because why else are we here?
Exactly. Exactly. And one other last question before we sign off. When you look at your emotional system and you think that our emotional system and our thought process is like a glass of water,
Mm,
how much space in your emotional system are you going to have opened up by releasing the judge's voice inside of you?
yeah. I think it's going to surprise me. I think more than I think right now, because I think maybe it's just this much. But as I'm feeling myself like even laugh about it, I'm thinking it's going to be more than I expect.
Yeah. And that burden will just come off of your shoulders and out of your mind just to create that space for a better living. Well, Lorelei, thank you so much for being here. You are such an enjoyable guest. I hope all of you watching that you enjoyed meeting Lorelei. And thank you for jumping in the 16 Petri dish. It's very empowering for other people to be set free from their personal judger. And for all of you, anybody who would like to be on the 16andMe, please feel free to send me a PM. I come on every Friday, and you can. Part of being a guest is you get to take that little information insight journey. And learning more about your 16 that will hopefully be able to set you free. So, Lorelei, lots of love from California. Happy Easter. Enjoy your food fight. I look forward to seeing it. And thank you so much for the beautiful, beautiful sunflowers. I love them.
You're welcome, Dr. Tracy. Always grateful for you and this wonderful group of
Grateful,
people.
grateful
Thank
for you
you.
as well. All right. Oh, by the way, your necklace came in. Yeah, I'll PM you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have to see that as well.
Yeah. Lots of love, guys. See you soon. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.